Hello again, future casters. You know, I liked using that word that isn't really a word, future casters, in the title of this show because I am hoping to inspire not just you, the listener, but myself and my guests as well to cast spells of what we want the future to look like. I want us to use our words and our actions to shape the future into some place that we want to live. A place that feels like home, that feels safe, that feels different from where we are now. I know that there are enough of us with enough empathy and humanity left to see this through, but we have to be conscious of the spells we are casting. This aligns with this week's card, the Magician, who is reminding us that we all have the capacity to be lightning rods for change. Be conscious of how and where you are directing that energy. There is so much anger flowing in the collective right now, and rightly so. This shit is infuriating. Watching elected leaders do nothing while college students are being disappeared and plane loads of people, human beings, are being labeled as criminal and shipped off to prison camps outside the jurisdiction of our court system is enraging and frightening. But please, please be mindful where you are directing your energy, and trust me, as a double Aries, I am also speaking to myself here. Class solidarity is extremely important in this moment. Remember who the real enemies are and work to dismantle the traps they have set to trick folks who have more in common with us into trusting them rather than burning yourself out arguing with those who have been brainwashed into their cult. Again, remember who our enemies are here. Okay, that's enough for the tarot message of this week. On to housekeeping. Unless I suddenly develop a time machine, the transcript to this week's episode is all kinds of jacked up. I just wanted to give you a heads up if you ever look at those transcripts. Honestly, most of the ones for past episodes are also a little wrong somewhere. It is my dream to one day have enough time to make sure the transcripts of these episodes are actually correct. Or even better, I would love to hire someone to do that for me, but alas, that is not the current situation. If you would like to support the podcast, and maybe someday that support can look like me hiring someone to help with editing, you can join one of the tiers on Patreon, but of course you can also become a free member, which is just and is incredible and appreciated, and also gets you access to any and all bonus content I share over there. I am currently editing a deck review where I show you 3 unique tarot decks from my collection, including the legendary Exotic Cancer Tarot that I used in the Jacqueline Francis episode. It is the most perfect stripper-themed tarot deck a girl could ever ask for. And if you're really ready to lock in this spring, you can also claim one of only 3 spots available for monthly personal tarot readings. What this is basically your spirit guides and I teaming up to record you your own personal podcast dedicated to bringing you clarity and confirmation when you are in alignment with your highest good, or gentle ways to realign when you're drifting off course. Of course, you can also schedule a live virtual tarot consultation with me at calendly.com/persophonic. That's PERSEPHONIC, or by reaching out via my website, persophonictarot.com. And while I am giving you links, the link to Patreon is, of course, also patreon.com/persophonic. And lastly, if you are in Tucson, Arizona on Saturday, April 12th, you can receive an in-person reading at Evergreen Cemetery for their spring movie night. That's right, you heard me. I am reading tarot in a cemetery for the first time in my professional career, and I'm quite excited about it. This does happen to be one of my favorite cemeteries in town. There will be local artists, food trucks, and of course, tarot readings starting at 4 p.m. and the film starts at 7:30. You can find out more information on Instagram at evergreen_mortuary_cemetery. And with all of that being said, I am ready to get this queued up and honestly get to bed because it is approximately 9:27 p.m. the night before this episode is due to drop. So please enjoy this interview with Tucson's very own Hierophant, Andrew Cox. All right. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I am sitting here with Andrew Cox, who is the owner of Nexus Occult Books and Oddities here in my hometown of Tucson, Arizona. Andrew, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Maria. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. It's awesome.
So excited to chat with you today. I've been into Nexus a couple times, once right after you first opened,
Right.
and I got somewhere over here, I got a card deck. I always get like unusual decks of cards when I go into
Right.
your shop. The first one I got was the I Ching, but in a deck version rather than
Deck
like
form. Yeah, yeah.
coins. Yeah, deck form of the I
Absolutely.
Ching. So I got that, and I've gotten the episode that came out with Jack the Stripper. I used the Exotic Cancer tarot deck, and that also came from Nexus. So
One of my favorite decks. Absolutely gorgeous.
it's a really cool resource that we have here in Tucson because it's not just a metaphysical shop. It's, I
Right.
would say, almost primarily a bookstore. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that was, when I was opening Nexus, there are a lot of great new age and metaphysics stores in town, and we do our best to work with everybody and support everybody within our community. But I did not want to be a new age or metaphysics store. We are an occult bookstore. I mean, it was just to the point where, like, once we signed the lease, the owners of the property at the time did not want us to use the word occult in any of our signage or anything. And it was this huge problem, but we stuck with it, threatened to sue them, and we got to keep our name. So,
There you go. There you go. Was there any occult work done to help tip those scales in your favor?
oh, absolutely. I love to scry. Scry is one of my favorite things. So definitely did some of that. We did some spell work, and we prevailed.
Here we go. I think that's one of my favorite things about the general vibe of Nexus is you do not shy away. You don't shy away from the darker sides
Right.
of the spiritual world, the occult world, where I feel like there's a really big emphasis on the love and light aspect and the self-care aspect of witchcraft and spirituality. That's kind of like what's in the forefront at this time, but
Sure.
it's very apparent that y'all are not pigeonholing yourselves into that category.
Very true, and that was by design. I mean, any store, it's really easy for any store to carry all the new stuff from like Llewellyn and Weiser. Those are two of my favorite publishing companies. They're great. It doesn't matter if you're a newbie or if you consider yourself a magus or somewhere in between. I wanted to bring in stuff that you can't find anywhere else. I mean, we specialize in carrying books that you're not gonna find anywhere else. And even if you could find them, stores just aren't gonna bring in the type of stuff that we do, because we don't shy away from like Left Hand Path and from harder, even the Baneful Magic and Poison Path stuff. I mean, it's not like that's our shining light of what we want to do. We just want to make that available to those who want to use it.
So, before we start talking about the birth of Nexus, its existence in town, I would love to hear more about the path that you walked to get to this point. So, at what point in your life did occult work come to you or you found it? And what journey have you been on there?
That's a great question. So The main catalyst was when I was 4 years old and I saw Ghostbusters for the first time. I really wanted to be Peter Venkman, and my parents didn't dissuade me from it. So at that time I was really, as a kid, just trying to find anything I could on Ghost, and then that led to Aliens, because there were shows like In Search of with Leonard Nimoy and Unsolved Mysteries. Those were kind of my foray into the paranormal, slight occult world. But it wasn't until I was about 9 when I saw The Exorcist. I love my father. He's a great man, but letting a 9-year-old watch The Exorcist by himself at night in Memphis, Tennessee, it was just like, no. But that movie broke my brain. I grew up in a very ardent Catholic household, more on my dad's side, because my parents were divorced. So having that visceral imagery of demonic possession, and the stuff you weren't really allowed to talk about in church, that I had to know that there was no just leaving it alone. There was nobody to talk to. So I started reading as much as I could, and there wasn't really a lot available to me at your regular library. But what happened was, when I was researching demons, I started learning about grimoires and books of magic, and that just fascinated me so much. I'm like, how do I get my hands on these things? And so I was a voracious reader, and that's really just, it snowballed. And I've always enjoyed collecting things in my whole life. I started with like baseball cards, coins, and stamps, and then books. And especially when I became a teenager and got my own job and had my own money, I could really start collecting. And so it snowballed into, from one bookshelf to, just before we opened in August of 2022, I had just shy of 23,000 books.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you take your personal collection and then turn that
Yep.
into the bookstore?
That is
Wow.
exactly how it happened, man. Just slowly chipping away, going to every used bookstore, thrift shop, estate sale, yard sale, anything, just to find books, man. And at one point I had 3 storage units that are 10 by 20s full of books before we opened. I was spending over $600 a month just to store my collection, not
Wow.
including like what was in the house.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
well, might as well roll that into some rent for a shop
Yeah.
space and
Right, exactly. I mean, that was really my main goal, wasn't to, for better or for worse, when I made that decision to open Nexus, it wasn't with the thought of, okay, this is going to make me some money. I'm going to be a business owner. This is going to be good. My real design was, I was lacking community. I've never had a community growing up, especially with people that I could talk to about this stuff. I was always that, okay, that's really weird, dude. No one wants to talk about, ghosts, aliens, and demons and magic and stuff like that. None of my friends, I mean, I grew up in like a bunch of heavy metal friends, and none big, okay, it's cool stuff, but like no one wanted to practice any magic or witchcraft. And so I felt so lost not having a community for so long. So opening the store was just like, I've got all these amazing books. I love to read. I love this stuff. I want to talk to people. And like, how can I share this with people? And that was one of my biggest fears opening. I'm like, is there enough weirdos like me in Tucson to make this happen? And luckily there is. Yeah.
there absolutely is. There's something so special and particular about Tucson where we have such an abundance of weirdos, and I
Right.
greatly appreciate that.
For sure.
So I'm hearing what you're saying about this starting as you being a young person fascinated with kind of the unseen realms
Right.
and collecting as much as possible. And see
Right.
that so strongly represented in the 2 cards that have come up. And I'll mention before I pull up the cards, and Andrew and I were talking about this earlier, that I'm using the Guardian of the Night Tarot by MJ Coulinane, I believe is the pronunciation of that last name. But it's a very fun kind of collage style deck. That being said, the cards that have come up, we've got the Page of Cups representing your youthful curiosity and interest in these more spiritual, unseen, non-physical realms of ghosts and magic and ritual. And that's paired with the Ten of Pentacles, of this need to collect and draw in and have these items and physical material. And when I'm talking about tens, I'm often talking about how nines are like the peak and the culmination that we can reach on our own as an individual. But then 10 is bringing in community. And so there is
Nice.
that desire for community to kind of foster community around the material items of your curiosity and searching. So that's just a really cool
That's
reflection
amazing.
there. Yeah. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and
Okay.
then I moved to Shreveport, Louisiana. I was there for a few years. I came to Tucson in like 1992. I was probably 12.
Okay, Southern boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I was born here in Tucson in
Okay.
1995, shortly after you
Gotcha.
arrived. And
Just a little bit older.
yeah, just a little bit. But around that same age, around 11, 12, that like middle school era,
Hmm.
I I started, I don't know where the interest came. I think my mom had this book of spells that were very much targeted to like middle-aged or like just prior middle-aged women, of like love spells,
Nice.
how to finally get that man, like
Gotcha.
send off, make a paper boat and send it down a river at midnight and write your intentions on it, that kind of thing.
That's brilliant.
And I poured over that. And then that led me to going to Bookman's. Anytime I went into Bookman's with my mom, which, if you're not from Tucson or Arizona, this is a really cool used book and other items,
Oh, yeah.
books and like technology and
They have
entertainment.
everything now. I mean, from consoles to instruments to oddities, gallery stuff. I mean, everything there. It's
Yeah,
massive.
it's really cool. So, really awesome resource that we have here in Tucson. But I would beeline straight to the New Age
New
section,
age section. Yep.
which was
Same.
about this big.
Right.
And I would go through, oh my gosh, I was going just pouring through all of those books, and I would take home. I brought home Teen Witch. I brought home all
Nice.
of those like old school Wiccan
Ravenwolf stuff.
books.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Silver
Right. With Cunningham.
Ravenwolf,
Yeah.
Cunningham. That's the author I'm
Right.
thinking of. I'm like that
Hmm.
green
Oh,
cover.
yeah. Scott Cunningham.
I got rid of all of those at some point, like in my older teen years, and I'm so sad
Right.
about it because that
Oh,
was so the origin story. And
yeah.
that led me to Wicca is always, if you were a 90s kid or early 2000s kid and you got into
Right.
spirituality, it had to be Wicca. So I definitely
Yeah.
came
You
out
started
to
with
my
Wicca.
mom as like a Wiccan in eighth
Nice.
grade.
Wonderful.
I do not identify as a Wiccan anymore, but I love seeing that your shop specifically hosts like very traditional Wiccan like
Oh, yeah.
teachers and workshops because it's such a
Hmm.
fun entry point.
Right. Exactly. It's easy. You can kind of ease yourself into it, you know?
Yeah, it's a great place to start. And I think it's because it is almost formatted, or maybe intentionally formatted, as kind of a religion. It's almost a nice bridge for folks who were maybe raised Catholic or raised in some
Right.
other religion, are realizing that that's not what's vibing for them, and kind of take this bridge over into the wild world of occultism,
Yeah,
spirituality,
I
all
agree
of
with
that
you
stuff.
100%. That's exactly correct, especially coming from a strict Catholic household. The Wicca, the Gardnerian stuff is great because there's a lot of the same ritualistic process. And so it's not so foreign, and it's easy to kind of ease into it where you're still within your comfort zone if you're just starting out.
Okay, so you had built up this massive collection, and
Right.
then what year was it that you, well, before I even ask this question, what were you doing work-wise prior to opening Nexus?
So, from 2007 up until like 2 months before I opened Nexus, I was in advertising sales.
Okay.
Yeah. So my last job was Clear Channel Outdoor. I was in billboard sales, and then before that, I worked for the Arizona Daily Star in advertising. So that paid the bills. I made a lot of money doing that, which helped me purchase all of these books and oddities and stuff. I hated it. It just it just wasn't. I mean, I feel so blessed for what I do. I mean, if Nexus ends tomorrow, fine. But I see most people go through life having a dream of what they truly want to do and never get a chance to experience that.
Mm.
I'm literally living my dream. It's a ton of work. I don't make any money at all, but it's not the point. I mean, my point is I'm just trying to build a community and help the community. So going from advertising sales into just, which is so draining, and it's especially if your heart's not into it, doing that for so many years, just because I have 3 children. They're all adults now, but I had to pay bills, man. And so I did that, but it put me here, so it was worth that struggle. Before that, I worked for a record label in Los Angeles, for about 5 or 6 years, which was an amazing dream come true, because I was always really into heavy metal, and I got to go tour on the Ozfest stuff and got to meet all the heavy metal bands that I've always loved, and that was a party all the time. And yeah, I survived that. My liver didn't, but I made it through.
You made it. You're only young
Yeah.
once.
Right, exactly.
That's awesome. What kind of skills do you think you picked up from advertising sales and even working for the record label? Are there skills that you feel like you still use now?
Every day, absolutely. I mean, as much as I hated, especially the advertising stuff, it's essential to what I do now, because you learned to. I mean, we were taught to basically your desk is your own small business, and so everything from doing your projections and your year over year and your budgeting, and plus being in advertising, it taught me a lot about marketing, which is essential, to reach your audience and figure out what your core demographic is and how we can engage in people and be able to read all the crap behind the scenes to make that work. I mean, yeah, I would not be able to do Nexus if I hadn't have had to go through that struggle, which I didn't really appreciate too much then, but I really appreciate now.
Yeah, that marketing aspect is so important. I think that's
Yeah,
a conversation I've had with a lot of different creatives of whatever we
sure.
were doing before, it just was collecting skills to be able to actually
Mhm.
successfully try to run a business on your own.
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%.
So what year was it that you opened Nexus? If my memory is correct, I'm going to guess it was 22?
Hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
August 3rd, 2022. Yeah,
August
that
3rd,
was
2022.
a Wednesday.
Did you pick
Yeah.
that day for any particular significance?
No, I mean, it was by that time I had saved up just enough money, and the collection, like, was just so enormous at that time. I was like, look, it's either now or never. I can't keep hoarding like this, And I had gotten to the point too. I think one of the big pushes over the ledge for me to open up Nexus was about 8 years ago. I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, so I had sepsis, and that killed my pancreas, and
Oh
that
my gosh.
triggered diabetes. And so having that, to be challenged with my mortality. When I got sepsis, it was bad. I mean, I had a 105-degree temperature. I remember some of the, like, my blood pressure was like 63 over 70. I was dying,
Oh my God.
So then having the diabetes come in, so basically that put like an expiration date like right in my face. I was like, okay, I'm no longer gonna put my dream off into the future. Like, yeah, I'll just wait till I get an inheritance or something, and then I'll do it. That might never happen. And now having type 1 diabetes, and I'm the worst diabetic. My doctor calls me a non-compliant diabetic. I don't stick to meal plans. I don't take my medicine. I don't want to be controlled by it. So I'm just like racing towards the end. So I was like, that's it. Let's do it. If it works, great. If it fails, at least I can say I took a shot.
Yeah, it really became now or potentially never.
Right.
Oh
That's
my
right.
gosh. What has been the most surprising aspect of opening Nexus?
The community, like, words, I can't even have the words to describe how absolutely amazing, and how much I truly do love and appreciate the community. When I just went on that 3.5 week tour, the whole time I'm thinking of when I'm visiting these new places that I've never been, I was always thinking like, oh man, Dustin would have loved to be here.
Mm.
Gene would have hated this part. Nikki would love this. And like, and I think I mentioned that in one of my posts. I was like, how much I really wished our community could have been there to experience it with me. Our customers are just, a lot of them are family. We're just so good friends. And I love that, man. I never expected that to happen like it did. Have really gotten to know so many of our customers. I love talking to our customers. It's not like you have to come in and buy something. Just come in and talk to me, man. I love helping people. We've been able to help people through like horrible crisis, whether it's a spiritual crisis or addiction, or with their practice, or they get stuck. Sometimes they get oppressed and things, attachments, and being able to work with the community and get through that as a group is just like, that's the best thing ever.
I'm immediately so struck by one of the cards that I've flipped over for the present of your work now. And I can think of truly no better card to come up for your role right now as keeper of the bookstore that offers the keys to so much knowledge and wisdom. Like, there's such a wide variety of texts on offer. And so, of course, we have the Hierophant coming up.
Yeah.
Of
Nice.
course, we have the Hierophant. If there's an occult pope in Tucson, it is Andrew Cox. He's setting up shop. You have so much about the Hierophant for folks who are maybe not as familiar with this card is the aspect of the keys. So here we see a key in the window. These are little mice and they're in front of like a bakery, I guess. There's the big mouse and then all the other little mice are kind of like listening. But there's always keys shown on the Hierophant card, and it's those holding the keys, having the keys to all of the wisdom. One of my most favorite tarot decks, the Fifth Spirit Tarot by Charlie Claire Burgess, shows the Hierophant as a librarian
Right.
because it's that person who has, they're not necessarily the creator of the knowledge, but they're the person shepherding and guarding and offering access to all of that knowledge.
Exactly what I want to do, man.
That's what you're doing. Can you tell me a little bit about the tour that you just went on?
Yeah, so that was a blast, man. We went to so the whole tour was, Marcella Kroll's book had just come out. Healing the Liminal came out on February 9th. So she started her book tour at Nexus. And then from there, we went to Providence, Rhode Island. We were there for a few days. I mean, I've never been to Providence. I've fell in love with the place because there was snow. And like, you go down to like Brown University, and it's all of these old buildings, and just like the architecture it's just gorgeous. And the streets are kind of tiny. All the homes are like just incredible. It's so different than to what Tucson is.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love the place. The food, there's like a big Italian kind of community there, and I'm half Italian, and so it's great. The accents were just so fun. Family Guy, Peter Griffin. That it was great. It was freezing cold, but it was great. And then we went to Salem, Massachusetts, which is kind of like the mecca for witchcraft for so many people. So I had never been, and I like Salem. Salem was cool. It's definitely gotten really touristy,
Yeah.
but it was still fun to go at least see the sights and go there. But honestly, between the two places, I love Providence, man. I could totally live in Providence. It's so artsy, and just the people were all so nice. And again, I couldn't get over the accents. It was just great. I got hit with it. We were walking down to like breakfast, and there's all these snow plows coming, and this plow comes screaming down the street and freaking nails me with a wall of this dirty, gross
Oh,
snow. I had some choice words for him, and about his mom, but it was fine. It happens. But and then we flew back to Tucson for a couple days, and then drove out to LA. I think we were in LA for like 4 or 5 days. Went to like Open Eye Crystals, which is beautiful, beautiful spot. Spellbound Sky, which I think a lot of our community follows, Mark and Martin. There's just two beautiful, amazing absolutely incredible people. I was so thrilled to get to meet them. They're so nice, and they're so genuine. They are exactly how they are on their videos in person. There's a lot of yes, bitch, and hello, my baby. Martin's fucking beautiful voice and his long, beautiful black hair. I love them both. And we went to a few other places like Stories and like in Echo Park. And then we came back again for a couple of days and then flew out to Denver for
Mhm.
4 days. And that was cool. I got to go to Ritual Craft out
Yeah.
there, which is just, oh my God, man. That's like movie set, occult store. Missy and her husband, Aries, own that. So Missy has Ritual Craft, just a massive, beautiful occult store, and then right next to it, attached to it, is Aries' tattoo shop, which I don't remember the name of
Oh.
it. Yeah, and so it's this huge building, but like the occult side's black and the tattoo shop side is white. And you go in there and just they've done such an incredible job. I mean, it was just as perfect as a store could be. It was just gorgeous. Like, oh, like, oh, how did you get all the
Beautiful.
money to do that? 'Cause, like, as a business owner, I'm just like doing the dollars in my head. I'm like, you guys must make a ton of money because
Yeah,
this
that's
is all
always
very
my question
expensive,
is like, how
right?
is this how is
That
this
was what I was wondering when I'm
functioning?
in LA. I'm like, because there's stores like that are half the size of mine that are only selling crystals and honestly not like a ton, not like a gem world, And I'm like, how are you selling this much crystals to pay for all this? And
Yeah,
so
because
I
their
remember when I
rent
got
has to be
back,
like 3 times, 4
exactly,
times what it would be
easily,
here.
plus the cost of living. I mean, and so when I got back, we have on the oddity side, we have a table, two tables from Cody's Crystals, and I was like, I'm giving you
Love
another
Cody.
table. Yeah, and I'm like, this the math isn't working for me. I'm like, if they can make that much money on crystals, make money here for your crystals. I'm like, put more crystals out. So that's what we're doing. But yeah, so it was super fun, man. I had a blast and just got to experience so many new places, new people, man. But yeah, I would say that the theme for me though along the way was I wish my community from Tucson could be experiencing this too.
I'd love to see more folks going on, whether it's book tours or just like artist tours or tarot
Yeah,
tours, and stopping at Nexus and coming and joining us here in Tucson. I think where I think Tucson as a community is really climbing the ranks in terms of key locations for spiritual creators
for
and
sure.
folks looking for more spiritual stuff and community.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I've noticed about our community was one, I didn't realize how big it was, but I also didn't realize how fragmented it was.
Yeah.
It is so spread out. And I'm like, it's just people are ships passing in the night. I'm like, everybody talks to me about one community, and that's what we're trying to do and build and bring together. But I mean, y'all listen, there's plenty of you, it's just trying to get everybody together at the same time or enough of you together at the same time to really connect and click.
Yeah, and I love seeing the shop owners start to collaborate more because it does kind of feel like you pick your shop and
Mhm.
that's your
Right.
community, but there's so many ways that we can integrate that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, and that's I mean we post all the time, all the other stores in town,
yeah.
we add them to our stories constantly. I don't see the other stores as competition at all. And that's not an ego thing. I'm not saying that we're better than them. It's no, there's plenty of things that the other stores offer that we don't.
Mhm.
I was like, so I will direct our customers to go to those, whether it's Celestial, right, Ninth House, Bruja, so many others. I want that community. I think it's a necessity for survival, and especially during the times we are right now,
Mhm.
where our community as a whole has always been a target, and to some effect will always be a target. Fine. The Muggle world, I'm not a fan of, and so for me, the occult community eclipses all the BS in the Muggle world that I just have nothing but disdain for. That I try to
Mhm.
leave at the door when I come into Nexus. It's just to me, it's just such a distraction, and it's just sickening. It's like a cancer to me, the Muggle world. So for me, the occult world, the occult community, it's so much better. There's so much we can do together, and it's so interesting, and it's just there's so much behind the veil that if we work together, we can attain ascension and go through this together, as opposed to being just shit on by what's going on in the muggle world around us.
What do you think about this is a question that I had no intention of asking, but I'm curious. What do you think about the spiritual implications or spiritual aspects of what is going on politically in the world right now? Do you have
That's a
thoughts
great
on that
question.
matter?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, obviously I'm a voracious reader and I always have been. And a big part of that has been politics, because for me, it seems like there's a group at the top that wants to control us, and they do that by dividing us. They don't want the occult knowledge, which means hidden from view, to be seen.
Hmm.
And so, whether you're called a tinfoil hat or conspiracy theorist or crazy person, whatever, I don't care about any of that. But yeah, I really think there's a very active campaign to keep us divided and keep us at each other's throats. I don't like Washington, D.C. I think in Washington, D.C., in my opinion, just based on what I've seen, what I've read over years and years and years, there are very few actual Democrats and Republicans. I think mostly they're just all on the same team, and they put their message in opposition of each other. So we'll fight each other, as opposed to these useless, corrupt career politicians on both sides of the aisle that only care about money and power. I refuse to be a pawn in that game.
Hmm.
I'm not going to hate somebody for thinking or looking differently than me. I refuse to do that. If I disagree with somebody on something, that's fine. I disagree with you. That's okay. I don't hate you. I don't want to harm
Hmm.
you, and I don't want to be harmed either. Please, So yeah, I really do think there's an active campaign to keep us at each other's throats. Yeah, to keep us distracted and knock us off the path of getting away from that horrible crap. My life has been so much better. I'm working so much harder that now that I own Nexus, but now that I've been able to separate myself from that muggle craziness, and I can focus so much more on doing ritual magic and witchcraft and building the community. Dude, I can't, I mean, like, my blood pressure has gone down. I don't have to take my blood pressure medication anymore. So yeah, I really, I refuse to play that game. I mean, people are being targeted,
Hmm.
all the time, and just I'm not going to hate people. I'm not. I'm not going to be tricked into harming someone. I don't want any part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with you that there's the people who are in power and they're trying to maintain their power on either side of the aisle in whatever political party, and they're making us down here do that dirty work for them by infighting and developing and fomenting this hatred when, at least from my perspective, like the only thing that is real, the only thing that is true is love and working to spread love and spread care. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do, this is something that I heard. Oh, who said this? The preacher from the Black Lagoon, I think is their name on TikTok. And it was like, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop someone from harming others and therefore harming themselves by extension, because we are all one and we're all connected.
Right,
Um,
exactly. We all have a giant one consciousness. And that's something that I've actually seen in scrying, just this massive blue wave. And it's kind of like everyone's consciousness. I think we are and can be one. We can still be individuals, sure, but but there's no reason to hate someone. I'm not going to play that game anymore. I don't make comments on things, even if I disagree with them, even if I ardently disagree. I'm not going to make a comment to troll someone or to. I don't need to put that out. Why put out that low vibration? Why put out that negativity? What purpose does it serve? It surely doesn't do me any good or them. So I'm not going to participate.
yeah, exactly. What are your thoughts on there? I've seen various movements fly around the internet of like hexing Trump or like cursing, throwing around these more baneful magic in the direction of Washington, in the direction of these folks who are in power.
Yeah, I've seen that. And I think the old me would have definitely been all for the hexing and oh, absolutely. I've done plenty of baneful magic back in the day. Now what I do when I have a problem with someone like that, And if I'm going to the point where I'm going to actually do a ritual or some type of spell work, what I do is I will do a ritual or spell work to release them from what binds them. So I will do like a bondage breaking spell for them to whatever it's causing them to do harm. I'm going to do my best to free them of that. As opposed to me putting the actual work into to harm them, I'm going to do my best to free them so they no longer harm themselves or others. For me, that's just how I've made that big leap now. But
I
10
think
years ago, good Lord, I would have been cow tongue and nails and hair and fire and all kinds of shit.
I will put a bitch in the freezer. I'm still not opposed
That's
to putting
okay.
a bitch in the freezer.
Absolutely. Sometimes you got to.
Sometimes I'm
I
like, it
totally
is
get that.
so rare when it happens. I think truly maybe 2 people ever have gone in my freezer. One is currently
It's
in there,
okay.
and sometimes they will. But the thing that I lean towards now, on along that same line, the thing that I lean towards now, and I feel like what you're saying of doing that ritual work to release them from, what is driving them towards harm, that's even like the
Right.
next step to what I tend to do now. I do this most often just like with road rage. I'm an Aries rising. I get pissed.
Nice. I
I get
totally get that.
so angry. And
It's
instead
so
of
easy in Tucson.
so easy. Instead of like throwing a lot of energy of like, I hope you fucking die. I try to go more like throwing a mirror, and I hope that you
Nice.
see what you are doing. I hope that you see the
Exactly.
true nature of your actions. That's what I try
That's
to go
brilliant. I
towards now. I'm
totally
like
get that.
a little more
I mean,
harmless.
it's so different though, because like when it comes to like the people in Washington, I still consider them like the muggle people, but
Mhm.
it's different when you're having to deal with people in our own community.
Oh, yeah.
That's especially where putting somebody in the freezer is totally fine with, because
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of people, a lot of times this, our own community can be very pissy and controversial. And we do throw shit at each other sometimes without even understanding it. But like that astral parasite, that negative energy, it's different when it's in our community because there's more intention involved, so that
Mm-hmm.
there's a different type of someone far away just being a bad person. Let me see what I can do to break them of that, versus somebody in our community that knows the craft, that knows occult, who's using that to harm me. No, then I'll get out a cow tongue and a nail. Okay.
Yeah.
That's different. There's a difference there.
Yeah, that's like grandma, grandpa, elder coming in and spanking you back down because you're
Right.
acting out of line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with that.
What has been your experience with bad behavior in the community?
you know,
As vague
um,
as you want to keep it.
yeah, because I do, yeah, definitely. I see it. I do. I
Yeah.
see it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's frustrating. It really is, because I don't see a need for it. I think you'd get so much more done if you just worked with other people, as opposed to there's this one-upmanship, and there's someone who's trying to be the it person now. I just, it's funny to me because I can't even express how much I don't care about that. Like I'm here for my community. Y'all do you. If your goal in life is to be the popular one, I'm sorry for you. I will pray for you, I guess. But yeah, it does happen quite a bit. Because even talking negatively about someone in particular enough time, that's a spell.
Hmm.
Your speech is your spell, you know? Um, and I try to be cognizant of that, I mean, it's okay to be upset with somebody and to call out bad behavior when you see it. That's fine. But when you have some of these behind the scenes people just bitching about that store or that person, when you do that enough, you are creating a spell. That's where a freezer spell is great for. And just like, okay, I'm feeling the negative energy that you're talking about me. I can feel it. I can, it's time to put you on ice. Okay. You got to stop. So yeah, it's frustrating to see that though. It really is.
Yeah.
I try not to take any part of that. And I mean, that's one of the things we talk about with all of our teachers, all of our readers is that you're at Nexus, but that doesn't mean we're better than any other. So we do not tolerate any bad talk about any other practitioners, any other religion or path or store at all. We're neutral ground and we're proud of it.
The cattiness is Yeah, so
I
I've
get
been
that.
really turned off from working with others for a while, and thankfully being able to do this show has been a way for me to kind of like maintain my like control of the situation
Sure.
while
Yeah.
also being able to collaborate and engage with people who I think are really cool and whose like work I want to uplift.
Right. And I love that. And I think that that's so essential. One of the things we're going to start doing in April is now we no longer have a reader on Saturday and Sunday. So what we wanted to do was open it up for new readers to come in every month. And that way we just
Oh,
don't have like a solid reader all the time who kind of just parks their stuff there and they're there forever. We wanted that way we can rotate practitioners and different people in every month and open it up to new people in the community and new practices without someone, because I noticed that, excuse me, that people, someone's always trying to be the king or queen of this and that. I'm the best. I'm this. I do this. This person doesn't do that. I'm like, who gives a shit, man? Just do your
everyone is
practice.
offering something different, and a lot
Right.
of times the biggest difference is your personality. It's
Yeah,
your personality and your point of view that you're bringing to the situation. We're
exactly.
all relatively equally equipped in terms of skills.
Yeah. Right.
Even if you're newer or much more experienced, at the end of the
For sure.
day, it's the individual person that is going to either
100%.
connect or not connect with the
Right.
client. So, I would love to hear more about the classes and workshops that you offer at Nexus.
Yeah, absolutely. So, about a year after we opened, the building next to us became available, and I jumped on it, which was, I'm so happy I did, but it was probably one of the dumbest things I could ever do. It's like people don't understand
More
how
rent.
expensive it is.
Yeah.
You have to have one building, and now I have two. And again, we don't make a lot of money at Nexus. Y'all seen our prices? They're low. I mean, it would, like, again, I wasn't trying to make a bunch of money. I'm just trying to help people. But when you're in the charity business, having a whole, like, duplicating your expenses overnight is terrifying. And so we open Names, we call it Names, which stands for Nexus Academy of Magic and Esoteric Sciences. Our tarot reader, Jake, actually came up with that, was brilliant.
It's a
And so,
great
like,
name.
I love it. It was perfect. And we have like our three-headed raven is our little mascot. I just recently got that tattooed on my hand. And on our website, there's a tab that says members, and you can read, this bird's name is Trivia, and you can read her entire story. It's so brilliant. So the like three-fourths of the store is dedicated to oddities. And what we have in there is about a dozen different vendors that we change out every couple of months. There's a few like Cody's Crystals has always been there, will always be there, because it's just easier for me to rely on him to do all my crystal vending than having to always have somebody else in. So it was great to be able to bring in all these small businesses from the community and give them a chance to have their product in a retail store, because everyone that has a table in there, that is not their full-time job. They have a 40-hour a week muggle job, and then in between that they're doing this passion project. So this gives different people in the community an outlet to get their stuff in front of new people all the time. So that's super fun. We only take 30%. That's our cut. It's a 70-30 split. And then in the back is a classroom. We have classes typically on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And if you go to our website, there's a tab that says classes that will give you every month list of like what's going on, plus a gigantic list of all the crazy classes and events that we've had. And I recently just gave Jake, he's actually running the classes, because I was doing everything. I was running both stores and trying to get classes. And so I recently just I made Jake, he's like the education coordinator, I think is what we put on the business card. Because like I'm so busy. I mean, I was working 80 hours a week for almost 3 years straight doing this. I mean, just from sun up to sundown, this was all I was doing. I've just in the last 8 or 9 months or so, I've really tried to cut that down, and to leaving early on like the days I have Jake there to cover, and to not work so much on my days off, to spend more time with friends and family. And as much as I love Nexus, it was burning a hole in my brain, because it's all I was doing. That there was nothing else outside of my life other than the store. And as much as I love the store and the community, that became a sickness. It was not a good thing. And so now that I've made these changes, it's so much more positive, and we have so many cool classes, so many cool teachers coming, and like great teachers, people with like PhDs and years of experience. And I love that, man. And we'll have a class on anything. I don't care. It's like either whether it's conspiracies, demonology, magic, witchcraft, voodoo, hoodoo. I love to be able to offer that to the community. And most of our classes are like 10, $15 a person.
It's such an awesome resource. It's such an awesome resource. Are any of the classes available online? And if not, have you considered offering them online?
Not yet, but that is something that we have been talking about and are kind of
Mhm.
working on. I think I teach the scrying class, and so I wanted to kind of just give that class out for free, because it's always full and people are really starting to get into scrying and have a lot of questions. So I think what we're going to do is give that one first out on YouTube, or hopefully over the next couple months. But we just found a software and a system where we can do it. It's just trying to get the time to get through it all. I think it'll happen more in the summer when we slow down. That'll give me a little bit more extra time to really sink my teeth into it and make sure that it works.
Yeah, that's a great idea because I know I took a class that was offered online from Ritual
Ritual craft.
Ritual Craft. I can say
There
that.
you go.
Yeah, I took a class online from Ritual Craft on working with obsidian. It was taught by a
Nice.
really wonderful like indigenous practitioner who's worked with obsidian stones for a long time, and being
It's
able to take
amazing.
that online from this class and this person who's based in Colorado was a really awesome
That's
experience.
amazing. That's really cool. Yeah, that's what we're aiming for eventually.
Yeah. So the other card that came up with the Hierophant for your present work, I think speaks a lot to the educational aspect and the information. Again, just that wealth of information. You as the owner and kind of spearhead of this whole entity. Nexus, I feel like, has become its own entity.
It
Uh,
absolutely is.
you're the Hierophant there facilitating the Five of Swords,
Oh,
facilitating
nice.
this change in people's mindset, this access to information, the ability to cultivate and bring in new information. Fives to me are such a number. It's a number that represents a little bit of chaos. And I think of any shop in town, you're maybe the most chaotic energetically because
Happily.
you absolutely, you do
Yeah,
encourage and bring in all of the energies, whether
exactly.
it's left hand, right hand, bringing in a lot. So that creates a lot of movement around that. I'm like almost seeing like the swirling of information. It's just all, it's
Absolutely.
like a
That's why it's
tornado.
called Nexus. I mean, Nexus, it's the center meeting point of all these different paths and ideas. When people ask me, well, what do I practice? I tell them I'm a chaos occultist because I mix
Mm.
ceremonial magic and witchcraft. I mix all different types of stuff, some little voodoo and hoodoo here and there, some baneful stuff, some herbalism, some Egyptian. I mix it all because it's what works best for me. I don't have to justify my practice to anyone. And what I try to tell people all the time is books are great. And yes, you need to learn from them. That's how you build the structure and foundation. But as you're going through your path, don't be afraid to make it your own. Add stuff or take away stuff, even if it's not in the book, because that's the whole point. I'm doing my magic. I've learned other people's magic and it's awesome and I needed to. But after I've learned their stuff, now I'm doing my magic the way I choose to.
Yeah, that's what I try to encourage when I'm teaching tarot, when I'm teaching anything. I also try to give my students that idea, especially when it comes to tarot. I'm like, read every book that you can find. Pick one major arcana card that you want to work with right now. Read that section in every book that you can find, and then that's just going to help you synthesize whatever gets,
Right.
whatever lights up your brain from each section. You pull that all together. That's now your interpretation of that card.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love the idea of the nexus, the meeting point, that central point of information.
Right.
That's really, I feel like, teaching me a lot about the number five in this moment, because one of the things we talk about with five, when you're on a path from 1 to 9, 5 is that middle point. It can be,
Right.
I almost picture like a seesaw with that 5 as the center where it can tip either
Right.
way. But
Exactly.
it's also that central meeting point where
Right.
everything comes together.
That's how it was
Beautiful.
designed.
So how does it feel? Last question before we go into kind of what you're
Mhm.
hoping for the future. What in, practice has been the experience of being the most, I would say, the most visible shop in town that includes more of that left-hand path?
Right. That's a great question. Okay, because having that giving people the access to baneful magic, to left hand path stuff, um, there's a sense of responsibility. It's not my job to tell people how to do their practice, but at the same time, though, I don't want anybody to go out there and harm themselves. And I think sometimes we can get a kind of a bad rap. And people think we're like the Satan store or Luciferians. We're not. We're no. We're just Nexus. We don't. Again, neutral ground for a reason. You can worship doorknobs and identify as a unicorn. That's fine. I don't have any books on doorknobs. I have books on unicorns. So I don't care about that. But so when I have somebody come in and that's the section they go straight to is the left hand pass section. I want to work with demons. I'm like, okay, why? I'm like, what's the point? Wait, what are you trying to do here? Because I mean, look, if magic was so simple that you just went into a store, picked any book off the shelf, read it, did, and it happened, then it wouldn't be magic. It would just be the way it'd be like Hogwarts exploded. Everyone would be doing it. That's not how magic is designed. But there's a saying that we have in the stores, and that's magic's got to eat. And magic eats those who do not take it serious. The tourist that comes in here, grabs a book off the shelf, especially a baneful one, and starts like, let me do this binding spell on Baal or Beelzebub. You're just gonna get your head kicked in. So don't do that. I mean, so when I have that happen, I try to counsel people and be like, well, why don't you start with like modern magic or ceremonial magic, like modern magic by Daniel Craig and ceremonial magic by Lama. Okay, that teaches you the basics and structure of how magic works before you try to go binding a demon. That it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. You can bind a demon maybe, but you can't bind them forever, and you sure as hell can't bind their legions. So don't go. I never try to bind any spirits whatsoever. I'm like, let's try to get a relationship, and maybe if they like me and we can have a relationship, we can work together. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it absolutely does not work. Like when I tried to work with the new business, he's just like, no. And I was like,
No.
please, I'm doing all the stuff in the thing. He's just like, no, I don't like you. I'm like, fine. So I couldn't force that relationship. So I feel that sense of responsibility is it's like, because some of these guns are like buying a loaded weapon, man. I mean, there's some real power to a lot of this stuff, and you can hurt yourself or worse, someone else, your family. We have had people come in and try to return books because they went out and bought like a Mark Allen Smith book, which is like super amazing, but like crazy left hand path, heavy, heavy, dark stuff. Because they had a bunch of paranormal stuff happen in their house after they bought it, where they were screwing around with the Goetia, and now they have a demonic attachment or oppression, and they're scared to death. And I'm like, I told you not to do it. So there is that responsibility, and that's something that I do worry about because I don't want anybody to hurt themselves. You can work left hand path and baneful magic, not necessarily all the time safety, but like responsibly is the best word I think I can do. And I try to push the responsibility of here's what you're getting yourself into. And if you don't even have a good foundation for magic or for witchcraft, this is not for you. Absolutely. Yeah.
Something that I think people don't necessarily understand is that there's so much potential. There's so much potential to hurt yourself or to get hurt on either side of the path.
Absolutely.
And we think, oh, it's the demons and the darker
Right.
stuff and the scary stuff. That's where I'm gonna, that's where that danger lies.
Right.
And then there's
If
gonna
you
be
just
the
stay out of the
people.
danger zone, you'll be
Mhm.
fine. Yeah.
And there's
No,
going to be
doesn't
the
work that
people
way.
who are drawn to that,
Hmm.
who maybe they're like, oh, starting with a book on ceremonial magic is boring. I want to jump
Right.
straight to binding the demon.
Yep.
And that's their own will, whatever. But
Right.
I've been hurt seriously. I've been
Yeah.
severely hurt energetically by Reiki practitioners. Like,
Absolutely.
it doesn't just, folks coming into the occult world need to have a solid understanding that it's like the way that any herb can harm you if you're using it the wrong way.
If you drink too
Anything
much
can be.
water, you can die.
Exactly. You drink too much water, you can die. You take in too much of the life force energy through Reiki, or
Hmm.
you have a practitioner who doesn't necessarily know what they're doing or
Right?
isn't following
That's a real problem.
best case practices or
Hmm.
safety practices, you're gonna get hurt too. Like
Yeah.
it's on
I
either
tell people it's
side.
like learning a martial art. You don't walk into a dojo and be like, "Oh, just give me the black belt stuff." And this is just not how it works. You got to put the white belt on and start at the beginning. Yes, the boring stuff, the kata stuff, the non-contact stuff, following direction. You have to start there. And as you go along your path, you must fail. That's another thing that I preach to people when I see them just so defeated, like, "Oh, this spell didn't work. This isn't working. This relation." I'm like, good. That's part of it. That's part of the process. Failure is a must. A lot of times spirits will test you in a relationship where they won't engage back with you. That you might have done the spell correctly, you did everything in the book fine, you get nothing for it. So the way that works best is if you keep going and trying again and figuring out a way to try to keep connecting, as opposed to the person who's just kind of like, well, I did it once, it didn't work. So obviously ISIS is horrible and doesn't love me and I don't like them anymore. Like, then yeah, you did not earn the right to work with ISIS or anybody. The occult is for everyone, and it's everyone's right, but it's an earned right. So you have to earn it.
There's so much to be said there around the fact, like, if you can't manage healthy relationships with people in your life,
Hmm.
you're probably going to have issues trying to manage healthy relationships with spirits and entities in your life.
100%. I mean,
Let's
yeah,
start with the
shadow work.
material.
Yeah, seriously, and that's something so many people miss is like how important shadow work is. I mean, it's essential. You have to be good. You have to be clear before you can just put a foot in this behind the veil realm, man. I mean, I go see a therapist once a week. I don't feel anything's wrong with me. I'm not depressed or anything like that. But it's just healthy for me. It's just, that's shadow work for me. That works. And people just, they want to just jump into the practice and skip over theory, skip over shadow work. I tell people, like, look, do your shadow work and learn psychic development and learn like astral projection and lucid dreaming. These things are essential to communicate with spirits on the other side. They're not going to communicate like you and I. They're not going to sit down with you and have a conversation. A lot of it's metaphor and in dream work and then astral work, but before you get into that, you got to do your shadow work. Because if you're not okay, it's not okay to be messing with spirits. I don't care who you're trying to mess with, how good or bad you think they are, you can harm yourself.
Yeah, those are great points.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, what is your hope for the future of Nexus, the future of your work as the owner of Nexus and beyond?
That's a great question. It was never my desire to. I love book bins. I mean, I've purchased so much stuff from book bins. I don't want a Walmart-sized bookstore. I don't. I couldn't imagine having to manage something like that. It just makes me want to throw up. I like having my little store. So for me, the future looks like continuing to reach out to the community, to work with the community, to strengthen and protect and educate our community. I like the idea of opening little annexes. We're working on opening an annex in Bisbee and in Sedona. So working on that, there's a lot of work to do all that. Oh my God, it's so much work. But we're getting it done. We're going through it. So I like having that idea to where I can grow Nexus kind of locally and then regionally into these smaller little shops and then start working with other communities, and then start bringing the Tucson community to Bisbee and back, and then to Sedona and back, and then out to like Santa Fe or wherever we're going to go after that. I love that traveling circus of a cult community.
It's no surprise that it's 2 3s that have come up for your future cards.
Okay.
It's 2 3s.
Nice.
It's all about community. Threes to me, I always make this gesture when I am talking about threes for the audio listeners. I'm just like swirling my hand in front of me because it's this intention of bringing everyone in. Like there's a conversation with multiple people in front of me. We're bringing them all in. So we've got the 3 of Cups and the 3 of Wands. So we've got community on community on community with the 3 of Cups, these precious little raccoons
I
in their
love it.
cups.
Love little trash pandas.
Little trash pandas. And then Three of Wands, taking it somewhere. Where can you go? Setting off on a
Right.
journey. There's birds here carrying these wands and trying to send out that, I don't know if it's the message of Nexus. You're not necessarily proselytizing, but
Right.
it's this idea that we can have these spaces where we all come together and we all bring our unique aspects of the craft and start to swirl and blend and learn from each other.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we want.
That's awesome. Beautiful. Well, this has been such a fun conversation, Andrew.
Yeah, it was
I've
great.
really
I loved
enjoyed
it.
this. I've got to make my way. I live so far on the west side. That's the thing about Tucson is we end up in factions because it's east side versus west
Right.
side. I'm
For
so
sure.
far on the west side that I'm like not even in Tucson. But I
I
gotta
totally get
make
that. I
my
live at
way.
Broadway and Houghton, which is
Yeah,
about as
you're
far east as
way
you can
east.
get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm way out over here, but I do need to make it over to Nexus more often
Yeah.
because I love the bookshop connect
Thank
collection,
you.
and it does really bring me right back to those days of sitting on the floor in Bookman's and going through that whole New Age section and
Right.
seeing what I can find. And it's amazing because now you go into Bookman's and they have 3 full
Oh yeah.
bookshelves. It's
Yeah.
divided out into astrology and
Right.
numerology and all of that. It's been incredible to see how much interest has grown in these topics just
Hmm.
in the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah, man. It's great. I love it. And I think it's what we need. And that's my goal. Everyone, please get away from Muggle world. It's a sickness. Get away from it. Go find you. You are out there. The occult's a great way to find that. If you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to do the work, yeah, that's freedom,
Yeah. And I think the stronger that we make these communities, the safer we are from the eventual backlash when the pendulum
Yep,
starts to swing the
that's
other
right.
way.
Because
I
it
know
will.
it will. I've had this conversation in your shop with
Yeah.
folks that, are we worried about the backlash against tarot readers and
Hmm.
astrologers and spiritual
Yeah.
work? As it's grown in popularity, we're likely to face an equal and opposite reaction.
Sure.
And the more that we can band together, the more that we can see ourselves as one cohesive community and support
That's
each
right.
other, the safer we'll stay.
Exactly.
Awesome, Andrew. Well, where can folks find you on the internet and in person at Nexus?
So we're on Facebook and Instagram. It's just at Nexus Occult. And we're located at 4865 East Speedway Boulevard here in Tucson, Arizona. We're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, open Wednesdays through Saturday, noon to 7, and Sunday, 11 to 4. And find us on the web at nexusoccult.com. You see all of our classes and videos and cool pictures of the store as well.
Awesome. We're ending at 111. I'm going to call that
Perfect.
auspicious.
Look at that. Just
All
on March
right.
11th. That's great. I love it.
Ooh, nice. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for sitting down with me. And thank you to those who have listened to our conversation today. I hope you go find some wonderful books at Nexus Occult. And as always, happy shuffling.